Good evening, everybody. I hope that all of you can hear me. And we're going to do 2021 Fall Mentoring Follow-Up, and today is January 13th, 2022. That's not correct on the screen, but it's okay because we are going to keep going. I need to get this so it'll work. And basically, we've been going through the 12 initiatory temples that were in ancient Egypt 4,500 years ago. Vicki has taken me back to these temples through past life regression, and I was able to go through each temple once a week. And we went through all 12 temples, and we've been reviewing the temples. We're up to week 5, but we're doing, actually this is week 6, because we are doing the temples themselves again, and I'm explaining further in case you didn't understand something. So that's why we're having a question and answer period. So list your questions, type them in on the chat, and we will answer those questions at the end of the lecture. Now, the Water Initiation Temple sits on the eastern shore of the Nile River, close to the Big Bend in the Nile. So it's right here. This is known as the Big Bend. And it has an area where the Nile River has ran for years and years and years, and there's a huge area there where a lot of silt has been deposited, and they've been able to grow a lot of crops, and they have a lot of irrigation systems in this area. And it's a huge complex with many irrigation canals bringing water to the entire area for crops and for recreation. Now, water is one of the most important resources on the planet. Without water, life on this earth cannot exist as it is. But what makes water so important? Water has several unique characteristics that make it an extremely valuable resource. Some such properties are listed below. Water is a very good solvent. In fact, if you energize the water, it even becomes a better solvent. And if you put little nanocrystals in the water, make nanocrystalline water, it's the best solvent there is. And it has the ability to dissolve many substances. And we've been making different things with a friend by the name of Dennis Clement, who helps us make the different products that we sell, including the Ormus that we sell out of the office. And there's many wonderful products that we use, and it makes them even stronger because the nanoparticles get into the cells without having to be attached to a receptor site. They just go right through the cell membranes into the cells. It makes the water hydrate the cells better. And so it causes better hydration, better absorption of nutrients, better absorption of vitamins and minerals, and it's wonderful. The boiling point and freezing point of water make it easily available in all 3 states of solid, liquid, and gaseous. Now, when water crystallizes, it's usually because of freezing. But you can get water to make nanocrystals without it being frozen, and those crystals remain. And they're beautiful little crystals. If you looked on an electron microscope, you'd be able to see them. And it's pretty amazing. So, the specific heat of water is quite high, which means that it enables water to absorb and release heat very slowly. So, you know, when you put water on the stove to boil it, it takes a little while, and you have to put a lot of heat into it. and thereby regulating the temperature of its environment. In fact, the water on Earth keeps the planet a very stable temperature. The only time the oceans have actually gone up in temperature was when Fukushima's nuclear plants had a meltdown. They melted down and went right down into the ocean, raising the Pacific Ocean up 1 degree centigrade. That's a lot of energy that warmed up that water, but it actually kept everything cool on the whole planet. And you know, it's interesting. You know, we hear a lot about global warming and this, that, and the other thing, and being due to carbon dioxide, but that's actually one of the lies that the media is putting upon us so that they can tax us for carbon dioxide. Now, the particles of carbon dioxide are less than 0.01% in the atmosphere. And so, you know, even if humans continue driving cars and doing everything else, it won't raise carbon dioxide because the plants love carbon dioxide and they take it in. You know, when everybody was setting the fires this last summer and the summer before, the fires didn't even raise the carbon dioxide levels that much. And the fires were like 10 years of driving cars on the planet. That's how much carbon dioxide these fires put out. But the other plants absorb it. And so the plants absorb the carbon dioxide and produce oxygen for who knows, all the plants and insects and animals on the planet. And so, you know, water is very good, and plants use water and carbon dioxide to produce the food they need. And so it's a marvelous thing that we have water. Owing to its transparency, water can allow light to reach the life forms that are submerged in it. This is crucial for the survival of the plant life in the oceans, lakes, and rivers. And water is neither acidic or basic. It has a neutral pH of approximately 7. Now, our bodies actually are more alkaline. Our blood needs to be a pH of about 7.4. So it's a little bit on the alkaline side. And this is good because our bodies stay healthy and strong, and we produce a better electric current with this slightly basic fluid. And so we transmit electricity better in our bodies, having it at a little higher pH of a little alkalinity. And these unique qualities of water, along with its abundance on the planet, about 71% of the Earth's surface is made up of water. And guess what? Humans are about 71% made up of water. And it makes a crucial resource for plants, animals, and human beings. Now, the water temple was a big temple up against the mountain, but it was up against a mountain that had a whole range, and water was coming down into the top of the water temple. Here's another picture of a temple that's kind of built into the mountain. The water temple was built into a mountain but came out a ways, and there was a big ramp going up into it, and there were a lot of designs, but the big portion of it was outside against the mountain, but it had probably 300 feet came out from the mountain. Water is the medium through which all essential vitamins and minerals are transported in the bodies of living organisms. The only 3 vitamins that are not water soluble are vitamin A, vitamin D, and vitamin E. and I believe vitamin K is not as water soluble. So those are the main fat soluble vitamins, and our body, when we absorb these fat soluble vitamins, we have to produce a lipid layer around them to absorb them. So they're not as easily absorbed, but the B vitamins and some of the other vitamins like vitamin C, all the B vitamins are water soluble and absorbed into the body. Even B17 Laetrile is absorbed into the water quite easily. And so eat your apricots. And if you want, break open the apricot pits and eat the inside of that, because it's loaded with Laetrile. Now, water also plays a vital role in facilitating the work of our enzymes in our living organism. And in fact, the bile, which is a higher pH, and the secretion from the pancreas is a little higher pH, about a pH of 8. And when it comes out, it activates the enzymes for the digestive process. So you need a little higher pH for digestion because it activates your enzymes. Sodium bicarbonate is secreted by the pancreas, is broken down into ions by the water, making the medium sufficiently alkaline for the enzymes to work. Water helps maintain, and it also neutralizes the acidity from the stomach, the chyme passing from the stomach comes into the small intestine and combines with this alkaline energy from the pancreas and the liver, and it helps the enzymes to break down this acidic chyme that comes out of the stomach. Now, the acid serves a lot of purpose in the stomach because it kills bad bacteria, fungus, and parasites. So it helps keep these organisms out of our digestive system and out of our body. And so water helps all of this stuff go on in our body. And it helps maintain our body temperature in our own body and in the plants and animals. In order to decrease the temperature in their bodies, animals lose water via perspiration, sweating, and plants lose water via transpiration. And it's very important in order to keep plants growing in very hot heat. As long as they have plenty of water in them, they do fine. If they run out of water, they can wilt and die. So it's very important that we have water. And we always hear, you got to drink your water, at least half your weight in water every day in ounces. So if you weigh 120 pounds, you need to drink at least 2 quarts a day. That's about half in ounces. So remember to drink lots of good purified water and bless your water to make it invigorate your body even more. Since water can rise in capillary tubes without any external help, it's an interesting thing. You put a capillary tube into a cup of water, the water will actually come up the capillary tube through a process that it makes a charge and brings itself up in the tube. The same thing happens in plants, and it's transported from the roots of the trees or any plant up into every part of the tree and every part of the plant. And this is beautiful because it actually goes against gravity, believe it or not. And so water is a very integral part of photosynthesis. And without photosynthesis, autotrophic plants would not be able to produce their own food. And plants produce the food for all the animals, humans, insects, fungus, everything. Now, this is a picture depicting some of these hills and stuff around the valley there in Egypt near the water temple. And as you can see, there's rows and rows. They would irrigate these areas. And they still do this today with the water coming out of this mountain. And it's very purified even. Now, during the initiations, Set, or Serapis Bey, who is the leader of all the Ascended Masters, he was a priest, a high priest at the time, 4,500 years ago, that I went through the initiation temples. Excuse me. And he was my master during the initiations, and he would give me ormus, which was a mixture of gold, silver, and copper. And it helps us to reach heightened states of consciousness and awareness, and opens to new ways of being. And it becomes apparent that we can see things that may not be seen by others even, and hear things that may not be heard by others. We can feel things that are not felt by others by doing the ormus. And it increases your psychic abilities and telepathic abilities. Now, the 12 initiations for the Ascension teach us about righteousness. And righteousness is the rightful use of energy. We're here on this planet Earth to learn how to perfect our use of energy. Christ consciousness is the way of righteousness. Christ consciousness vibrates in love vibration. So we all need to raise our vibration into the Christ consciousness or love vibration. And freedom and empowerment is the gift for all from God. Now, we have certain people trying to change the humans currently by putting things into their bodies that alters their DNA. And this is not of God. This is something that man has created, and they are creating transhumans, basically, by doing this. But we need to come back into loving thoughts and unconditional selfless service, which is the mystical. If you go to any mystical temples, they teach you about loving thoughts and unconditional service. Selfless service, which gives power to everyone. Whenever we empower the whole, we become a person of righteousness, because we're empowering and serving the whole, because it's the law of one. Using Christ consciousness or love in all things will lead to our ascension into the higher dimensions, the higher realms. The next realm we will go to, when you die, you go to the fourth dimension. But we want to ascend into the fifth dimension, which is an even higher dimension. Because the fourth dimension is kind of a transitory place. When you die, you go to the fourth dimension. And a lot of people are taught and trained there, you committed all kinds of bad stuff, so you got to come back to Earth and come back in the third dimension. But this is not true. We can choose to rise above and go into the fifth dimension. But we have to get in the love consciousness. Okay, so using Christ consciousness or the love in all things will lead to our ascension into the fifth dimension and higher. Now, initiation in the water temple is very interesting, because our free agency and our choices, which we're having taken away from us, it's a test of love and staying in the love vibration. The water temple and the air temple is all about creating energy, which each of us has as children of God. Our thoughts, emotions, actions create our reality and affects all around us. Not just other people, but it affects the animals, it affects the planet, it affects the plants, the insects even. And so we can do this, and we can telepathically communicate with all. Now, the importance of water in the Nile River on this journey, speaking about how important the river is for Egypt. Without the river, there would be no Egypt. The river brings minerals and fertilizes this desert oasis, provides transportation, commerce, trade route from upper kingdoms of Sudan, Ethiopia, and others. The flow of the Nile River is like God, providing life, abundance, and prosperity for Egypt. Also, our country would not be able to survive without the river systems throughout our country. Water is vital for the planet, and so it's important that we take care of our water systems. You know, I watched a show on Lake Powell today saying how it's down 165 feet of being full, and they're complaining it's due to global warming. Well, the fact of the matter is, NAFTA, when President Bush signed it, he released an additional 2 million gallons of water per year to go all the way down to Mexico. And that's why Lake Mead and Lake Powell are emptying, is because we're releasing more water than's coming in. We used to not release so much, and they used to be good storage units, but with the treaties and such, he released a bunch more down river, and that's why the dams don't have as much water behind them anymore. It's not because we don't have precipitation, believe me. Even though this last year was pretty dry, it didn't cause what's happening. What causes it is we're releasing more water. Now this temple looks like a huge temple, and it's 200 cubits in length, and a cubit is about 4 feet to 8 feet, you know, depending on the translation. And so it's a huge temple with a large fan-like structure going up into the mountain. And the fan actually covers the spring coming out. They wanted to cover it so they could use the water in another way other than just having it flow straight into the river. They took it and they redirected it so it would form canals. And this was good, purified, fresh water. Didn't have any silt in it or anything. Good drinking water. In fact, they would take this water throughout Egypt because it was so pure and perfect. Now, Set walks up to me to the entrance with many stairs, and we entered the temple. And there was a lot of people in the water temple. They were having meals. They were having buffets. They were doing all kinds of games and teachings and doing all kinds of stuff. Lots of children in the water temple. In fact, they had rides that they would let the children ride down in these beautiful little aqueducts, and they weren't very deep, and so, you know, they could stand up in them. And it was amazing as I saw this temple and all of the parts associated with it. Now, Set said